Is he bringing the budget information?
Sorry,
Is he going to bring the budget information during the meeting?
it'll be presented, the whole thing will be presented.
Okay. Good morning.
Good morning.
Great to be over here at the Rellis campus for our annual board meeting over here. Great to see all the faces we don't get to see every day when we're over here. And thank you for what you do at this great facility that we've got. I'd like to call the meeting to order. The Texas Government Code permits this Board of Trustees to meet in a closed executive session for the following reasons, among others: to consult with the college district's attorneys on matters deemed privileged by the Texas Disciplinary Rules of Professional Conduct or Government Code 551.071, to deliberate regarding real property under 551.072, a prospective gift under 551.073, certain personnel matters under 551.074, security devices or security audits under 551.076, and economic development negotiations under 551.087. If the board meets in closed session, we will announce the particular section under which we will be doing so prior to initiating the closed portion of the meeting. We are going to have the pledge and invocation today by one of our students, Miss Cassidy Nicholson. She is a second semester nursing student in the ADN program at Blinn. She is from Iola, Texas, and graduated high school in 1999. She decided to place college on hold and went to work at the Hilton Hotel and Conference Center and was blessed with a beautiful daughter in 2002. Cassidy began college in 2005, only to realize that she wanted to be a mom first. In 2020, when COVID hit, Cassidy was laid off from her job after 20 years and decided it was a good time to go back to college. She was now a full-time student, working on prerequisites for the nursing program and caring for her mother who had a chronic illness. In January 2022, while her mother was in hospice, her father fell over 20 feet at work and was in the ICU for 3 days before he succumbed to his injuries. Her mom passed away exactly 4 months later. God's plans for Cassidy have led to one of her toughest decisions. Does she want to be an ICU nurse or a hospice nurse? The only thing she is certain of becoming is the best nurse possible through her love and compassion for people. Well, Cassidy, you've had quite a journey, and that's really one of the things that is, to me, so great about Blinn College is, second chances of going to school. So we're very honored and privileged to have you here today.
Thank you so much. Okay. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Honor the Texas flag. I pledge allegiance to the Texas flag, under God, one and indivisible. If everyone would please bow their heads, we'll pray. Dear Heavenly Father, we thank you for everyone gathered here this morning. As we interact with the world around us, may we exemplify kindness, radiate understanding, and be bearers of light and love, channeling the very essence of your teachings. We ask that you guide our steps with your unwavering hand, enlighten our thoughts with your wisdom, and ensure that each decision we make is in perfect alignment with your divine will, your purpose for us, and our commitment to you. We ask that you illuminate our paths with clarity, enabling us to face every challenge with grace and discernment. We ask all this in the glorious name of Jesus. Amen.
Amen. Thank you, Cassidy. Okay, moving on to public comment. It looks like we've had one individual sign up, Mrs. Diamantina Jenkins. And she is with Phi Theta Kappa.
Amen.
Good morning, members of the board. Thank you for hearing me out today.
My name is Diamantina Jenkins. I'm the Vice President of Scholarship for Alpha Phi Lambda, the Bryan and Rellis chapter of Phi Theta Kappa. Phi Theta Kappa has given me opportunities in scholarship and fellowship and travel that I otherwise would not have had, and I almost didn't join. I thought it was potentially another attempt at fraud. I had gotten dozens of invitations in my very first semester before final grades were submitted from other honor societies. And I did a bunch of research, decided to take a chance, and I am so incredibly glad that I did. My first year on Blinn Bryan was fabulous. There are plenty of quiet study spots. I had wonderful professors. The food at the student center is pretty delicious. But I just wasn't aware of the clubs and the associations that I could be a part of. And I had seen flyers scattered about, but nothing really just like reached out and demanded my attention. And I'm here today to hopefully change that. Our chapter has won many awards over the years. I imagine that we aren't the only group on campus that has awards that they want to share with their peers on the Blinn or the Rellis campus. And in order to do that, we have to send our awards to Brenham. So it is my hope that we can gain approval today for an award case at least on the Blinn Bryan campus, if not also here in Rellis's campus. It is my hope, not my hope, I'm so sorry, guys. We know that students show up to our campus events. Rellis's SLA actually reported that there were about 3,020 students that interacted with the events that they held on campus. So I can only imagine what that impact would have on our engagement with our clubs and student associations if they had a visible representation of what it is that they could achieve while engaging in our clubs and associations. Our chapter alone has won at least one award every year since 2017 for maintaining our 5-star status. We were recognized amongst the top 10 chapters internationally for, oh, goodness gracious, in 2021. We've received awards for our outstanding advisors, our chapter officers, and our chapter members. Our honors in action and college projects were recognized in 2023 and 2021. Just this past April, our executive dean Mars was recognized for his support of our chapter. We plan to bring home more awards this upcoming year, and we really just want a place that we can showcase them to our peers locally. And I really appreciate your time and have a great rest of the day.
Thank you so much. Okay, let's move on to the report section. The first item on the agenda is the Chancellor's Administrative Report. Dr. Hensley.
Good morning, trustees, and good morning, everyone in the audience. Just a note to our techs, if we could turn the sound up at the podium just a little louder so that everyone can hear throughout the room, I think that would be helpful. I'm going to do a sound check for myself. Those of you in the back of the room. Okay, thank you so very much. Well, isn't it wonderful to be here at the wonderful Rellis campus? You know, as I drove in this morning, it seems so different. We're between semesters. And so as we are on all of our campuses, there are very few people here. But typically when you come to Rellis, you will see more than 1,000 cars parked out in the front, and you'll be looking for a parking spot like everyone else is at most of our college campuses. And it's just full with students in the buildings, and it just has a vibrancy to it that we don't quite feel today, but we're so happy to be here anyway. And I would like to thank Executive Dean Chris Mars, who is not here today, for doing such a great job in leading this particular campus community. Well, trustees, let's begin with our facilities report, shall we? Here we go on our update for construction projects. Later in today's agenda, Mark Feldhake, Assistant Vice Chancellor for Facilities Planning and Construction, will share a report regarding the Bryan Campus Administration Building. Trustees, when we come to Brazos County, I'd like to have staff have items that can be familiar to you and also showcase what's happening at Rellis and what's happening at Bryan. And I think it's time and you're anxious for a real update on the Bryan campus. So I'd like for Mark to do that in a few minutes. Now, let's go to the Brenham campus. The demolition of Spencer Hall has begun and it will be completed by early June. The contractor will then move on to Catherine Atkinson, then Buccaneer, and then Lockett Halls. And the project for completion of all 4 of these dorms is for completion in August. Now to the academic building. At the academic building, the contractor has mobilized to upgrade the interior corridors with new ceiling grids, tiles, lighting, paint, interior signage, and a refinished front entry canopy. Facilities has coordinated with academic affairs and will continue to communicate with faculty and staff throughout the summer because we do have them leaving and going to other locations during this transition. This project too is scheduled for completion in August, trustees. And now let's talk about our Rellis presentation. Trustees, while you are on the Rellis campus today, I wanted to provide you with a report regarding the continued growth and development of this campus. And I could imagine absolutely no better person to speak to you today than the wonderful Kelly Templin. Kelly is director of the Rellis campus for the Texas A&M University System. He is over the entire complex. If you know Kelly at all, you know that he is an engaging and just a wonderful speaker, and he knows every single thing that is happening in this campus. So he's the best that we could bring forward this morning. Kelly has served in this capacity over Rellis since 2018, and he has overseen Rellis's rapid development and expansion. I invite you to engage in conversation with Kelly. He has the answers to everything, I have no doubt. At this time, I'd like to invite Kelly Templin to the podium. And thank you, Kelly, for being here with us this morning. We appreciate you today and every day.
I look so much younger in that picture. Gosh. I've got to update that picture.
There's your video.
All right.
You can do
I'll do the video first. So
Okay.
forgive me, you have probably seen the short video that I'm going to play for you. This was developed to sort of get the word out about the Rellis campus. If you happen to be, we have a Chamber of Commerce trip that goes to Washington, D.C. every year from Bryan College Station. And I think they thought we had set that up for them, but every subway stop in Washington, D.C. now has posters and photographs of the Rellis campus. So the strange thing is we feel like we're better known in Washington, D.C. than we are in Austin or San Antonio. So we'll have to change our marketing a bit. But this is not the video. Yes. Okay. Forgive me. Right there. Okay. I can find my. Here we go.
Hit play. Just move your mouse to the left. Hit that. In the middle there.
Forgive me. This is the Rellis space station you're about to see here.
What kind of world do you want to live in? A smarter world? A peaceful world? A safer world? On 2,300 acres, deep in the heart of Texas, those worldviews are being put to the test. In all kinds of ways. It's a place called Texas A&M Rellis. And our mission is to make the world a better place. One breakthrough at a time. It's where passion meets purpose. Innovation roams freely, and limitations are ignored. Rellis is where research, science, and technology go to work. To not only prepare for the future, but create it. seeking answers to the biggest questions. Like, how will we combat threats to our way of life?
Got window?
How will autonomous vehicles change mobility? How will human intelligence work with artificial intelligence? How do we maintain our leadership in hypersonic technology and take it to new heights? How will proving grounds keep improving so a new path can be beaten? How will we make sure the greatest military in the world stays that way? And how will we build a better way forward that stands the test of time? The answers are here. This is Texas A&M Rellis. This is who we are, what we're made of, and what we stand for on the most groundbreaking 2,300 acres on Earth. Texas A&M Rellis. Tomorrow is a big day.
Yeah. Right. Just have to hit this. You're opposite.
I think that deserves an applause. Wonderful, Kelly.
Thank you. It plays a little bit better in a darker room where you can see the faces and what have you. And forgive me, you may have seen that before, but I was watching PBS on the weekend, which is my habit, I'm afraid. But I happened to see Around Texas with Chancellor John Sharp, and during the commercials, or I guess the break, they played that. And even after having seen it 100 times, I was sort of strangely proud that I got to see it on television. So. It does describe some of our capability sets here. And again, it's an attempt to get people more familiar with the Rellis campus. So Chairman Colcourse, members of the board, Chancellor Hensley, thank you so much for having me. Some of these projects that you will see, and I will try to go through them very quickly, are projects that only an old city manager could appreciate. I love public works projects. They make things above ground possible. And so we are still combating a lot of old infrastructure here. So again, you'll see part of the building program that never seems to let up on the Rellis campus. To date, since the announcement of the campus, we put about $1.2 million in the ground from all sources. You'll see that that's only going to accelerate moving forward. So I won't spend a lot of time on this, but this is actually a presentation that I make to the chancellor on a regular basis so that he is up to date on the progress of the projects on the Rellis campus. We have now closed on the final tract of the quarry to our south, so we are just under 2,400 acres in area. And again, we are working with so many of our partners to be able to expand the capability set. I'll talk about some of that very quickly. The construction that you and your faculty, friends, and students had to put up with here on Bryan Street, immediately to the north here, has been completed. Utilities are extended to complete that utility loop, but also that part of the street is now lit, making it safer. So we're very pleased that that has been complete. It makes possible the construction of the building you can see just out this window. This is the STEM education building. This was made possible by $43 million from the state legislature in CCAP funding. The wonderful thing about CCAP funding is it's not PUF funding. I can't move the private sector in a building I spend $1 of PUF funding into, but I can put Lockheed in this building if indeed they need space on this campus. So we're very excited about this. This will also expand our academic offerings because of the makerspace and classrooms in this building. And that's, it looks like, I guess, clay or sand, that's water. So everything that we dug up there is full of water right now, but before you go, that is the mess we have just on lot 1,000. The pavement you see in the foreground is lot 1,000. And it wouldn't be a true college experience unless you had to hunt for a parking place. I say this is an old ag who never found a decent parking place, it seems. But we are looking at expanding the parking so that we can make it a bit more convenient for the faculty, staff, and students. So this is a small project, but it is our construction field lab. Our College of Architecture, particularly our construction science program, used to do a study abroad in Great Britain. Believe it or not, they went to an old RAF base, Mendenhall, and they actually did construction projects over the summer. COVID stopped that. So we are actually going to have an area here where they can construct, deconstruct, and demolish buildings and test materials here. So this is on the south part of the campus over by the apiary. This is just a rendering of what it would look like at full build out. Very excited about this. Down at the end of Avenue D, we are underway with the Animal Science Reproductive Research Biotechnology Center. This is in addition to the Animal Science program at Texas A&M. But what really is exciting about this, folks, is what's going to be built immediately after that, and that's that meat science program. So the Rosenthal Meat Science Building, which was built in 1983 on the West Campus, and is now wholly outdated. That program will be moving to the Rellis campus. And the best part of that is not just the 40,000 square feet of meat storage, but the brisket class is going to be coming to the Rellis campus. So I've got dibs on the first ticket. So here we go. This is again, one of those public works projects, but we are going to completely refashion Avenue D all the way out to Goodson Bend Road for a number of reasons. We purchased 48.4 acres for Teaks to move many of their training props down Goodson Bend. So this will get our police officer trainees down to that campus from the headquarters building until it is moved there. It also makes possible heavy traffic for Tatum when they have to spin up their facility. It also provides another access for the campus for students and what have you. If one of our accesses is temporarily, if you can't get in and out there because of an accident or something like that. So this also extends all relevant utilities, and that's really good. This is the aforementioned Tatum facility. This was paid for by the state legislature, 92,000 square feet. Chief Kidd's idea for this is to build these facilities around the state of Texas. We found, I believe it or not, I was actually deployed under Tatum to North Richland Hills to do mask production during COVID. And Tatum has had one warehouse statewide that supplied all 254 counties. That was a challenge. This goes a long way to address that. So you will see more of these facilities around the state as we move forward. This is the aforementioned Teaks training ground. So the Electric Lineman Academy, the police training will all eventually move down off Goodson Bend Road, making redevelopment of much of the South Campus possible. We're very excited about this, and construction should begin in the new year on this campus. If you'd have seen the video a little bit better, you'd have seen two young ladies from the Corps of Cadets in flight suits standing inside this 3-meter tunnel. This is the Ballistic Aero Optics Materials Facility. Upon completion, we'll be able to fly objects at 15 times the speed of sound inside that tube. Why would you want to do that? Because if you read the papers, our competitors are ahead of us in the world of hypersonics. And hypersonics are meant to counter our carrier task forces. So it's very important that we gain the upper hand in this regard. We also have a group of engineers on campus that are looking at anti-hypersonic weapon technology, which I find fascinating and don't understand at all. This is the data center. This is the first phase of it, which is under construction. If you drive in from Caldwell into town, like Layton does, he will see the construction of this underway. We're very happy to have this. This is the first of what we hope to be 3 phases. Immediately next to this that's a terrible drawing, but this is a ring bus. Again, something only a city manager can appreciate, but this ring bus, which is being built along the north edge of campus by BTU, Bryan Texas Utilities, will bring 240 additional megawatts of power to the campus. And folks, talk about projects that will consume twice that amount. So we're already after BTU to expand this unfinished facility. That's the beautiful picture of the ring bus or transformer yard underway. The walls are starting to go up on it now, but you can see Highway 21 there. Forgive me, I flew through that. I did so because I know you have important business and you didn't want to be bored with my public works projects, but I'm happy to answer any questions. And I do want to take the opportunity to thank you for the job that Chris Mars and Layton and Julie and everybody here does. We have a great partnership and we thank you from the bottom of our hearts.
Well, Kelly, we thank you so very much. It's a joy to work with you and your entire team. Trustees, when I first started talking about with Chancellor Sharp, the concept of a Rellis back in 2016, it's been that long now. And I think we opened our first building, the Schwartz building, in 2018.
That's correct. Yes.
And now we're just under 4,000 students here and growing every day. And this takes partnership. It takes great collaboration. And I'm so pleased to say that we have that in the wonderful team that you represent. And I'm opening up for any questions the trustees may have for Kelly at this time.
Kelly, I just say thank you for your support, Blinn
Oh, no,
College.
no, my pleasure.
Appreciate
My
it.
pleasure. Dr. Hensley, I remember that day we dedicated this building and it was 100 degrees in that tent. I will never forget that.
It's one of those.
It was
I
a beautiful August
I
day in
will remember
Texas.
forever. We have a lot of great memories
We
here
do.
at Relics,
We
and
do.
one of the traditions of the A&M system, as well as Texas A&M, is tradition. And so I think that it's so exciting to be right on literally the ground level of traditions that will be here for generations to come. I often told people when we first came out here, I said, be sure and bring your phones with you and take pictures, and take it in 360 degrees, because you will see very few buildings. You will see land. This is what you saw, just acres and acres, about 2,000 at the time, and now we're at 2,400 acres. But already I can see the changes. Now you actually see buildings and infrastructure. And I invite each of our trustees to come on a Monday through Thursday during regular college hours, and you will see how vibrant this campus is and how busy it is. It really is a happening place, as they say.
Yes, ma'am.
Kelly, again, I thank you so very much. As always, I tell you this, if Blinn or I or anyone from our college can be of assistance to you at any time, please let us know. And we appreciate you immensely if you'll share those words with your team too.
Absolutely. Thank you so much. And if you'll forgive me, I have to go back to work. I have a meeting immediately after this. So forgive me for not staying. But
We
thank you so much for
understand.
being
Thank you.
here.
I think Tiffany might want to give you something to eat on the way out the door.
Oh, thank you.
Thank you. And
Kelly, I
excuse me,
think
Chair
trustee
Colfer.
Moser has a question.
I just would ask you about a comment respecting, this may be completely out of your, something that you can answer, but
If I don't know the answer, I'll make something up. So
well, I may make up this question too. So, but you know, the theory for Blinn when we started this with Texas A&M was this multi-campus offering facilities for children, for students to get different degrees from different colleges and so
yes,
forth.
yes, sir.
Can you speak to that as to how that's working from your stand? From
Actually, you know, when we promote the campus, and I think for when most people digest the way we promote the campus, it strikes them as sort of an engineering campus, you know, a high-tech engineering campus. But the original idea behind the campus, you're right, encompassed this entire academic alliance idea, because we have the fastest growing state in the nation. The state demographer originally estimated we would overtake California in 2043. He's now said that we will overtake them in 2036. I don't look forward to that. But we cannot continue to expand many of our universities at the rate we have been expanding. Believe it or not, you know, Texas A&M is looking at a ultimate population of 85,000 students, which is difficult to get my arms around. It's over 70,000 now. So I think more and more we're going to have to develop programs like this to be able to address the ever-growing desire for higher education. And when I provide tours around the campus, it's amazing the interest I get from cabinet level secretaries, from generals, and from just the general public, because they know that we have to provide different types of educational opportunities for our public. A lot of kids are not ready to go to college, right? And well, we had a perfect example of that here a few minutes ago. So this complex between our buildings across the street and your buildings here always gets a lot of attention because of the types of training and education that are made available here. So I believe the interest in this will grow, sir. And again, when I bring folks out here, they're interested in hypersonics, but they're also interested in how we're educating that next generation of workforce, whether they're engineers or welders or nurses, because all of those fields are just begging for more people. So I think Blinn will play a significant role in that. At least I pray you will continue to expand on this campus. Yes, sir.
Thank you again. Kelly, we appreciate you very much.
Thank you so much.
Have a busy, wonderful day. And
Absolutely.
Chair Colcourse, this concludes my report, and I'll return the podium to you.
Okay, thank you so much, Dr. Hensley, and thank you, Kelly. Item B on the report section, presentation of an update of the administration building on the Blinn Bryan campus. Dr. Burton, I have a feeling you're going to hand that off.
Yes, sir. Good morning, and if you'll give me just 1 second to get my presentation brought up.
Good morning, Chairman Colcourse, members of the board, Dr. Hensley. Thank you for this opportunity. I'd love to give you an update on where we're at on our Bryant Administration Building. And to get us up to speed, I'm going to go back in time just a little bit and kind of recap some of the previous presentations we've given. So here is one of the architect's original renderings. Keep this in mind because you're going to see some pictures in progress that are going to give you a glimpse of what this will ultimately look like. To recap, our architects on the project are Kirksey. They've done several successful projects for us, including the building just to our south, the Schwartz building. They also renovated the Moody Library. They've been doing an excellent job on this project. We're also working with Vaughn Construction, local contractor here out of the Blinn College station area. They built the Schwartz building. They also built the STEI building, and they're doing an excellent job on this project as well. To remind us of the purpose of this project, these are all the departments that will be relocated into the Bryant Administration Building. Mainly this is to focus on bringing the student services out of the Tejas Center, which is located several miles from the Bryant campus, bring those back on campus. We will also be relocating some administrative services located on the south side of campus into this building, and also providing a dedicated meeting space in this building. To give us an aerial view, letting us know where we're located, that blue highlighted box, that's our campus there in Bryant, about 90 acres of campus. The darker blue towards the top of that is the area we're developing with the Bryant Administration Building. You can see the red lines, those highlight the roadways that get us to and around campus, including you can see Highway 6 over there to the right, Villa Maria. And one of the aspects of this that we're very excited about is that yellow circle up towards the top of your screen. That is another access point to campus. Historically, we've had issues getting students on and off campus during peak times. And so adding another access point to campus, adding another node to get students on and off campus, we're very excited about that. Now to highlight the site plan of campus, I'll go through a few factors here. You can see that circle indicates that node at the intersection of Villa Maria and Nash Street. The building itself is a 2-story, 46,000 square foot administrative building. We also are extending that Nash Street. That's a public access easement, giving us access to the front door of the building as well as our neighbors to the north. There's a public access needed to some of our neighbors to the north. We're developing a monument sign for the corner that's going to be very exciting. We have a circular drive with flag poles and some visitor parking in front, very similar to what you're seeing in front of this building. We also have a large parking lot, about 180 spaces for our staff and visitors. It also includes some dedicated bus parking for those larger groups of students we want to bring to campus and gain interest in our campus. We're developing an intramural field to the south of the parking lot. We're also extending that drive so that there's connectivity getting students on and off campus there. That Red River Drive is the existing drive, the right in, right out drive that's on the very north edge of campus. I'll go through a few of the exterior pictures just to remind us of what the building will look like. This is a view, so you can see that circular drive. This is more from the Nash Street, the city side of campus. The back side of the building would then face the Bryan campus. We'll just click through a few views and just remind us of what this building is going to look like. One of the items you're going to notice, and you can see it here, is the roof overhangs on both sides and gives us kind of some bonus patio space that's going to be very nice for our students. This is the campus side. So this is on the parking lot side of campus facing towards the Bryan campus. Another view from the Bryan campus side of the building. And now we'll get into the building just to remind us of the spaces we have inside the building. We have a common lobby with a front door, two front doors, a front door that faces Nash Street to the upper right, and a front door that faces towards the campus to the lower left. So you have the lobby in the middle. You can see we have our security desk. We have our stair, our grand stair that's going to get you up to the second floor. The light blue area is our financial aid and academic advising suite. This darker blue area is our testing center. This blue area is our dual credit offices. We also have some transfer offices where our four-year partners can come in and help us get students transferred from Blinn to those four-year universities. We have the registrar suite. We have the enrollment services. You can also see the lobby space with ample queuing for students that are lining up to get set up for their classes. And then we have the prospective student relations for those larger groups of students that want to come in and are interested in coming to Blinn and taking tours. Moving to the second floor of this building, this is more the administrative floor of the building. Again, we have a lobby and a pre-function space similar to what you see just outside of the doors of this meeting room. We have a larger meeting room. It will seat about 300 people in various configurations, whether that's a banquet configuration or a lecture configuration. There's also some back of house spaces for a catering kitchenette, storage for tables and chairs, and an IT AV closet. We have our business services area. We have our human resources area. And we also have our campus administration area on the second floor. The gray areas are mechanical restrooms. The restrooms are centrally located in the building. Now I'm going to show you some interesting pictures. We're going to highlight some of the architect's original renderings, and I'm going to show you some pictures of what it looks like today. So that was a view of our lobby, and that's what it looks like today. Here's another view of that monumental stair, and that's what it looks like today. Up in our meeting space, and then you can get a view of the volume now. Where we're at as far as construction, I'm going to show you a few more of the construction photos shortly. We are moving along very well. Vaughn is doing an excellent job. They had, as Mr. Templin mentioned earlier, some wet weather at the beginning of a project that they had here. We had some when we started this last fall and late summer. Wet weather, but they've done an excellent job keeping us on track. You'll also see some agenda items being presented today for FF&E and AV. So we're excited about getting those last items bought for the building and getting us ready to occupy. And as you can see, we are still on track for occupancy by February of 2025. Now for some photos, and this is just kind of brings us up to speed. You can see this was very early on. They had just broken ground, scraped some of the dirt off. It's some very wet weather, but Vaughn did an excellent job of getting us going. Here's a nice aerial photo. You can begin to see the footprint of the building taking shape. To your left is Villa Maria. To your right and up would be campus. And then here is a view from campus. You can see that drive on the bottom right-hand side of the page. That is the Red River Drive and that remote parking. And you can see how that driveway is going to tie back around, sweep around this building and tie back into Villa Maria and Nash Street. Here is the view of the building as it's under construction. That one of those original renderings I showed you. This is a very similar view. This is the view from the intersection of Villa Maria and Nash. They've actually got a little more progress done than this. This was taken a couple months ago. This is a view from campus. You can see the drive from campus bringing you into the parking lot. And then this would be the entranceway. So you can see that covered canopy as students would come in from the campus side to view the building. And then as we go in, you can see the progress installing the metal studs. Some of the rooms are beginning to take shape. Some of the open spaces, we have the tower element that we like to add in all our buildings. That lift is up in the tower as they're beginning to frame that tower. This is a view inside of the meeting space. You can get a feel for the volume. And then, of course, as we continue to move along, the sheathing is up. Of course, they've got waterproofing all around most of the building. They're going to be in the dry by the end of June on this building, and the heating air is going to be going before the end of the summer so that we can get this building ready for occupancy. This is a very interesting view. This is a view from the upstairs lobby looking back towards campus. One thing you didn't realize when we bought this land is on a hill. You get amazing views 360 around this building. And so being able to look back across the creek and back across the parking and see back to main campus there in Bryan, it's got a great view. And then, of course, looking from the front of the building towards the Nash Street Villa Maria side, you have this nice view. We'll have that circular drive in front, as well as our monument sign out at the corner. And then here is a view from the intersection, so you can get a feel for the building and the tower. So we're very excited. The building is well underway. It's on progress. It is under budget. We're on schedule. We're looking very good on this building. So with that, I'll stand for any questions.
Mark, it looks great. I'm just curious on the meeting space, the banquet room. How is that space in comparison to this space?
So this space seats, and I don't have the number right off the top of my head. I've slept a couple times since we designed it. I think this space fits a little over 500 people. So we're going to seat about 300 people. So it's a little smaller, slightly larger than the Snead banquet room, but not nearly as large as this. It will be a divisible room, so we'll be able to divide it for smaller meetings as well.
I know we'd also talked about the intramural field. Is that being done in conjunction with this project?
Yes, sir. It will be developed, and it's really just a nice green space. We haven't dedicated for anything specific, and it can be used whether it's for student services groups or any academic programs. That's for us to plan out as we get it developed. But yes, it will be complete along with this project.
What are the dimensions of that particular space?
I would have to look that up. I don't know that right off the top of my head. It's not quite competition soccer size. We didn't quite have the room, but it is very close. I don't have those dimensions off the top of my head.
Okay. Trustee Wells.
Mark, I know last time Dr. Crossan had some concerns about the flow to be most efficient in the building. Have those been taken into consideration in terms of once you enter through the lobby and you get into the building, being able to have financial aid, other things in terms of?
Yes, sir. At that time, I believe that the enrollment services was located with less availability for queuing space, and we've moved that out so that they have a very large queuing space into the lobby. I believe in working with all the directors in those areas that they're happy with that configuration.
It looks good.
Thank you, sir. All right.
Excuse me, with respect to that intramural area, is that property that we've had for, I couldn't quite catch that on the, when you.
Let me see if I can back that up to a site plan and we can look at that.
Current property that's been a part of the campus for a good while, or is that?
The intramural field was property that we've owned, but it's very near property that we purchased recently. And I'll see if I can get us to a point that I can, and maybe that aerial. Okay, this might be the best view for me to show you. So the intramural field is going to go, my cursor is not showing up there. How do I get my cursor?
There you go.
All right, there we go. All right, can you all see my cursor?
Mhm.
All right, that intramural field is going to go roughly here. That was property we owned. The property we purchased were 2 residential or light commercial tracts in this area, and then that tract of land that the church was originally on. So this is the tract of land that we purchased recently, and this is where the intramural field would be. So it is on property that we've owned for a while.
Thank you.
I have a quick question, and I'm looking at, where it had the green, so right up there in the, I guess in the way I'm looking at the top right there, in on our slide number, what slide that is,
7 on
it's
ours.
white. Do we own that property, or is that a section that we don't own?
Let me go back to our original site plan. You're saying it's kind of a notch out on the right-hand side?
Yeah.
Those
Like,
are,
you can touch that too.
Thank you, Dr. Crossan. That is land that we do not own. That's a mixture of residential and a commercial space as well.
Trustee Kettler.
Just a quick question on the intramural field once more. The funds to develop that are as a green space, budgeted as a green space. If we do improvements on that intramural field, whether I don't know, pickleball courts or whatever, is that funded through this, or is that another project?
all we're doing on the intramural fields is a green space field. We don't have anything planned for courts or goals or anything in particular. It is just being held as an available green space at the time.
And there's a creek I know that runs through there, but this doesn't take a lot of fill, is it's on the top portion of that?
Correct. We are at a much higher elevation than the creek that runs through that area.
Thank you.
Trustee Mosier.
Could I ask this question about it? Do we have any type of a list of what would be the next thing, or that? I mean, I know there's been, it's such a bare bones campus over there for so long, for so many years, and we've tried to develop that, I think. And so do we have any other, is there a list or a recommendation of what would be to kind of to Diane's question, what would be the next thing that might be of consideration?
Well, so within the master plan, there are projects identified for the Bryan campus. Some of the next projects that would be coming out of Gensler's master plan, they indicated a renovation and expansion to the library as a possible. There was also some discussion in the master plan about adding some South Campus pedestrian connectivity to make better connectivity from students in the south parking lot to go towards campus. And then looking forward into the phase 2 and even in the phase 3 of the master plan, there are some talks about a fine arts building, which would be just, and I apologize if I get my directions wrong, it would be just east of the A building, I believe would be the fine arts building. And then there's also some discussion in the master plan. Let me see if I can get my cursor. In this area of campus, there's also some discussions about putting an activities building. I would need to look at the specific terminology that we looked at. I haven't looked at that, but it's a phase 3 project to add another building here for, I believe it was a student activities type building, so that we could better develop this area of campus. So yes, there are a few larger projects that are identified in the master plan.
Thank you.
Any other questions? Thank you, Mark.
May I just add before Mark leaves, many thanks for your leadership and all that you're doing there. Trustees, we have shared all of this information over the past number of months with our Bryan Campus Advisory Committee. They're very excited about that. That committee is comprised of numerous leaders within the area. Also, I just wanted to say that there's a lot of excitement that's being generated by the construction of this building in Blinn College Station. I'm up here 2 or 3 times a week typically, and always, every day when I'm here, some 1 or 2 or 3 people will come up to me and talk about this building. They're very excited about the investment that Blinn is doing, particularly onto the Bryan campus, certainly onto the Rellis campus. But I just want you to know that a lot of people are expressing their appreciation to the Blinn Board of Trustees for this investment. Thank you.
Mr. Felke, before you run off, there's 3 questions. You mentioned it in your presentation, but I always ask him this every time we talk about the building. 1, are we on time? 2, are we under budget? And 3, have we developed the scope?
Yes, sir.
Short and sweet. Okay, well, that moves us into the next item on the agenda, the presentation of the financial statement package for the period ended April 30th, 2024. And Dr. Burton, I think you're going to make that presentation.
Yes, sir. This is the start of 2 presentations. This presentation is our current financial status. Right now, we've completed, this is as of April, we have completed 2/3 of the year, 67%. The topics we'll cover in this presentation are unrestricted cash and cash equivalents, revenues, expenditures, financial results, and observations. Looking at our cash pie chart here, please note that this adds the potential purchase of land in Waller area to our funds for current projects. Again, breaking down our finances here, we have set aside $52 million for funding for current projects. Moving forward of how our cash was used in the month of April, $2.4 million came in from student financial aid, $4.5 million came in from payments for students, and then $310,000 came from refunds for a positive of $6.7 million. Additionally, we had about $500,000 in interest that compared to previous, that's consistent with previous months. Please note that the state appropriations is no longer equally each month. It is in 3 payments. So we have a final payment coming up in June that's going to be roughly $8 million. It was a big month for expenditures. We had payroll, accounts receivable. In addition, we had construction, bond debt service, our book program where we paid out to Barnes and Nobles, and then some miscellaneous items to Servitas for a total of $13.6 million. So combining these last 3 slides together, our cash went down by $6.3 million. And so we decreased our bank account and we decreased our investment pools to cover these expenses. On the revenue side, we budgeted $126 million. We're at $103 million right now. And to note, state appropriations are up by 5 million. Tuition and fees are up by 1.5 million, but we're also up compared to last year by $11 million. So our revenue is moving forward, and it should exceed projections once you throw in the additional state appropriation. This is our revenue comparison. As you can see, as a percentage, our state appropriations went up as a percentage, and our tuition and fees went down as a percentage. Again, our state appropriations, we budgeted 26 million. We're at 21 million with an additional 8 million expected in June. Tuition and fees, we're at 80% at 67% of the year. We're above budget compared to where we were last year, or above actuals where we were last year. Moving forward, our tuition revenue comparison, the lion's share of Blinn's tuition revenue comes from out of district, and it is slowly creeping up since COVID. Our fee revenues are creeping up. Looking at our housing and food service budget, again, we're at 73%. This is more of the auxiliary function at 67% of the year. Auxiliary services, the housing is going down, but that's to be expected because of our focus to the P3s. And then our food service is going up because of the P3s providing students for us to serve. Our expenditures, as you can see, our total expenditures are up 4.4 million compared to last year, but that's to be expected because of additional payroll cost. And our allocation per dollar is payroll expenses decreasing as a total allocation of our dollars. But the point of emphasis here is that our debt service this year was a lower payment than previous years. Our expense comparison is pretty consistent for where it was as a percentage to the last year. And then our funding by function, instruction has had a bump in funding relative to the prior year, but and as long as every other service that we offer. Our financial results, our revenues are at 103 million, as we discussed earlier. Our expenses are at 85 million, so we're up 17 million compared to our revenues. Comparing to where we were this time last year, we again, we're up 17 million. This time last year, we were up 11 million, and so that gives us a change of 6.3 million to the positive. Observations, Blinn is in financially healthy shape. We have plenty of cash, and our revenues are exceeding projections. Our expenses are at budget, if not below, and we're adding to our fund balance this year. So any questions or comments?
Just a quick question. Just looking at the some of the information in our packet, we had some deferred revenue information. How's our enrollment looking for summer and into fall? Do we have any?
I'm going to defer to our student services expert, Dr. McBride.
Hi there. Good morning. Thank you for the question. I look at reports every morning. I know the chancellor does as well. I know Marcelo does as well. And I'm proud to say, Diane, that we are above where we were last year for summer 1, 2, and the fall. So it's a continual up and down, so to speak, in terms of enrollment. And every time we do a new student registration day, we actually have one in Bryan next Thursday. We'll see another bump up. Those days are a wonderful way to get 200 plus students to enroll for the fall term. But overall, the summer terms are looking very well. Thank you.
Thank you.
That concludes my report, unless there's other questions.
Any other questions? Thank you so much. And now I guess you're going to stay up there, and we're going to move into the presentation of proposed budget for fiscal year 2024-2025.
Thank you, Chair Colcourse. Trustees, I'd like to take a few minutes before Dr. Burton gives the presentation to just update you on the happenings that have occurred since our last budget workshop. As you recall, I expressed concern that we were approximately 4.4 reduction in what I thought we were going to have potentially for state funding. And I so appreciate your attentions and suggestions on how we might approach that. First of all, we always have a balanced budget. We've always done that since I've been at Blinn, and I assured you at the time and do so again this morning that I'm happy to tell you that we do in fact have a balanced budget that we're presenting to you this morning. So a great relief in that respect. All right, how do we get to where we are? Since last we updated you, staff have been in communication with staff from the Texas Higher Education Coordinating Board, including mid-level staff as well as upper-level staff. And those conversations have gone very, very well. They have been quite receptive and very supportive, to the extent that they have asked Blinn to resubmit some of our numbers from past years so that they can get our 3-year average. And we have done that and will continue to do that in the ensuing weeks. But they have been quite receptive, I would say, towards receiving those revised numbers. So that is very, very encouraging. Those numbers now center on 2 criteria: the number of co-enrollment students that we have and the number of transfer students that we have. So those are the 2 criteria under which rather we are hovering. Here's where we are today. You'll recall in recent budget discussions regarding salaries that we have shared with you everything from a 1% to a 2 to a 3 to a 4 to a 5 and even to a 6. What we're bringing forward today is a 4%, a little less than we last discussed. And that is, again, and because of the conversations we've been having about trying to bring forward a balanced budget to you this morning. So we're going to recommend a 4% across the board for all faculty and staff in regards to a salary increase for next year. In regards to the longevity pay, we are going to recommend and present to you today a longevity pay for both faculty and staff, as we discussed with you previously. We have broken the longevity pay down into 4 tiers. Thank you, Trustee Binky, for suggesting that. And they are 1 to 5 years is $400, 6 to 10 years is $500, 11 to 15 years is $600, and 16 and over years is $700. How does that work with actual faculty and staff? And I have the numbers for you. Less than a year, we have 42 faculty and staff. At the 1 to 5 year level, we have 294 faculty and staff. At the 6 to 10 year level, we have 164 faculty and staff. At the 11 to 15 level, we have 111 faculty and staff. And at the 16 and plus, we had 224 faculty and staff. The total amount for that is $423,000. So the third area that we presented to you at the most recent budget workshop was regarding adjunct faculty. And we recommended at that time a $75 per course increase. And we have reduced that down to a recommendation of $25 per course. In summary, staff and I went through the entire proposed budget for FY25. We made some changes along these lines. We looked, for example, as to where we could buy equipment right now, this summer, rather than buying it next year in FY25. We did the same thing with computers. We're going to make those purchases now rather than in FY25. We did some trimming of travel for faculty and staff at about a 15% level. We did not touch anything for student travel. We did about a 10% across the board reduction in supplies, consumable supplies. So we just trimmed kind of gently throughout the college. Nobody was hurt deeply at all, and nothing was cut significantly at all. We have enough in this balanced budget that should there become needs that arise during the year, we have funds that we can move to help any particular faculty member, staff member, or department that may need it. So here's what we're going to present to you today, and we welcome your input. A 4% across the board salary increase for all faculty and staff. A 4-tiered longevity pay starting in FY25, that would be September 1st of this year, for all faculty and staff at Blinn. and a $25 increase per course for adjunct faculty. This trustees does present a balanced budget for FY25. I particularly like to thank our wonderful staff who work so diligently on this and so quickly. Finally, I would like to say that we don't know what our final numbers are going to be from the coordinating board, but we have been given, every indication of the formulas that I've already shared with you. Should we, in our negotiations, receive additional money from the state beyond what I've shared with you this morning, then we will just put that back into our reserves, and it's available for use in the coming years as you have some plans that you've discussed previously about how you may want to use some of those reserve funds. With that, I'm happy to answer any questions, but I think it might be best if Dr. Burton goes through it first and lets you digest all of this, and then we'll open it up for questions. Thank you, trustees, very much for your kind attention.
Thank you, Dr. Hensley. Thank you, trustees. Well done, Dr. Hensley. All right, this is where we are in the budget planning process. It's basically data gathering in November, December, then analysis and development in January and February. Then right now we're in the board review and approval process. So this is a presentation to the board prior to the June potential approval of the meeting. If the board needs to meet or gather additional information, we're more than welcome to work with the board on how to do that. Overview of the presentation, we're going to talk about cash, our current status, our revenues, tuition and fee rates adopted. Those were adopted on April 2nd. Expenses, no action required today. This is information, but we're going to give you salary information and total expenses. And then we hope to present to you a budget on June 18th for approval. And again, if the board would like additional information between now and then, we will work with you to provide that. Our unrestricted and cash equivalents have, we had a nice bump during COVID and it maintained pretty steadily since 2021. Our revenues, keep in mind, even with this cut, we're proposing an additional revenues for our for the college. And those revenues are additional state appropriation, a little bit of additional tuition and fees, as we discussed when we had that discussion. So right now we're looking at roughly just shy of $3 million. So in discussing this, we'll talk about the proposed budget salaries, expenses, and operating expenses. Historical pay raises, as we've discussed previously, Blinn has ranged from as low as 2% all the way up to 6%. For this fiscal year, the estimated cost for each 1% of a budget increase is $606,000. What the administration is proposing today is a 4% across the board increase that would increase the budget by $2.4 million. This is the tiered longevity that the college is looking to implement during the college district's looking to implement during the next year. As Dr. Hensley explained, 1 year plus to 5 years is $400. 6 years to 10 years is $500. Tier 3 is 11 years to 15 years, $600. And tier 4 is 16 plus years, which is $700. That would be at approximately $486,000 addition to the budget. We're looking at increasing the instructors for the salary for those individuals to approximately $25 per course to keep us up with the state average, and that's approximately $100,000 per year. So this is in summary what we've all discussed. And so the revenue change reflects a reduced increase in the state appropriations. But in addition, you can see that we have the budget reductions that Dr. Hensley mentioned, plus some operational requests that were put forward. So at a 1% pay increase, it's a surplus budget, but at the 4% increase, the budget is a neutral budget, a balanced budget. Looking ahead at some general observations on the operating expenses, as you can see, last year we had 119 million budgeted. This year, while this chart says 118 million, not all the elements of it have been approved or we've not received guidance from the board on those. When we present this to you in the final document, this number will be updated. In addition, the side budget is for repair and renovations. Mr. Feldhagen and his team put together some recommendations. So based on the Bryan Rellis campus and then the Brenham Schulenburg campus. So he is proposing a total of $4.9 million in additional R&R. But that is outside the operating budget. That comes from our college reserves. So any questions?
First, I want to thank the chancellor and the team and Dr. Burton for the hard work to make this happen. And it's been shown in the chart that our historical commitment to try to reward the staff and faculty for the dynamic work that they do. And we're number one in transfer rate. We're number one in so many different departments. And we're 25th or below in employee salaries. That's work that we need to be able to do. But we also need to be fiscally responsible, and that's why I appreciate the work that's done. I do have a facilities question. I know that we were talking about upgrading practice facilities and improving potential for soccer, and also having a facility that we potentially could bring graduation back to the Burnham campus versus the experience we had at Burnham High School. How does this affect that timeline in terms of us being able to do that?
Mr. Feldhagen, if you'd like to address that question.
And Dr. Hensley, I might ask some of your guidance on this as well.
Go ahead and I'll jump
Okay.
in after you.
So certainly within the master plan, that's our guiding principle for anything we do long range for facilities. And when you talk about athletics, as we talked about in the board workshop a couple weeks ago, there are two large athletic complex projects, a part A and a part B, that are on the horizon. Based on those conversations, that focus from the board workshop was more towards Waller. So that is the focus right now for facilities is Waller. And those athletic complexes are further down the road, probably past the 5-year time frame. Dr. Hensley, is there anything more that I should add?
Yes, I would like to respond. Thank you, Trustee Wells, for that question. Your question is directly attributed to the master plan items, not the operating budget today, but I can see the connection. So thank you for asking that. Trustees, we gave you an overview the other day in the board workshop regarding master plan items. It has long been an interest of a number of board members and myself, and I will speak for myself, as well as the community, to do something with our 30 acres that we can to augment our current facilities for physical education activity on the Brenham campus. Specifically, in that master plan, we have items such as moving the football practice field off of Spencer, which is across from Old Main, and putting a practice field, not a stadium, however, but a practice field into that 30 acres behind ag that we have that's undeveloped at this point. We currently have an arrangement with the city of Brenham to do softball and soccer, men's and women's soccer, at the city level. And we would have long wanted to bring that back onto our campus as well. We have added golf, both men's and women as well, and we'll be adding cross country. So to be able to have a dressing facility as well as potentially locations for them to play would be really wonderful. So I think that my thought right now is I'd like to bring some further discussion back to you and maybe after the fiscal year begins, after September the 1st, and have the board look at all of those kinds of possibilities again and give us further direction at that time. For now, we are focused on the operating budget, and particularly in the most recent discussions regarding master plan, we're focused on acquisition of land at Waller and then potentially building a new academic building at the Waller campus. So that's our immediate focus for the next few months. And then I'd like to be able to come back to you after the next few months and have an extended conversation about the facilities at the Brenham campus using the 30 acres. Thank you.
Any
Dr.
other
Burton,
Yes, sir.
I've got some questions. You know, going back to wages, salary, longevity pay, that type of thing. So my understanding is the new longevity pay program that we're talking about implementing, that's an additional $486,000 in wages and salaries that we would not have if we didn't change that program, correct?
It's not even, change is in addition to this. This is if we kept it going, it's roughly 200 and something thousand. There's an additional amount because we added staff.
So it's an additional 486,000 that we did not incur in 2020.
Correct. Yes, sir.
All right.
Yes, sir.
So that's, is that not right?
No,
That would be what we already did plus the new for a total of 486.
yes, ma'am. That's faculty and staff in the 486.
And a 4-tier system.
Yes, ma'am.
Right now, trustees, there is no tiered system. It is $400 for faculty only, regardless of the number of years of tenure you have. And this is recommending a 4-tiered system for both faculty and staff, correct, for the total of $486,500.
Ms. Binky, if staff wasn't included in this number would have been lower.
Right. It would have been the number we had last year, other than we would have upped some people if we put in the
Right.
tier.
Yeah, yes.
Yeah, but that was probably 200 something.
Yes, ma'am. I think that's in the range. Yeah, that was my impression, and I'm getting a nod of approval.
There's two, trustees just want to be really clear. There's two major changes you're seeing here. One, it's available now for staff. Previously, it was only available for faculty. And two, previously, it was limited to $400 per faculty member who qualified, and there was no tier to it.
That answers my question. Go ahead. Trustee
I have a
Benke.
question about the tiers, how we came up with 4. And really more the increments of the years. The 5-year periods.
I can speak to it, but Marie, I see is online. So Marie, if you would unmute. And did you hear the question?
Yes, ma'am, I did. What we tried to do was take like the largest picture we could with all of our staff and all of our faculty. And we tried to break it down in a way that's also continues to offer retention for us as well as an incentive in terms of that being a benefit for the college. And it seemed like if we had, I mean, the 1 to 5 is certainly doable. And we decided that doing it in 5-year increments was better than, say, 10-year increments or 8-year increments. That's a long time to have to wait to move up to that next tier. This seemed to be fair and equitable to across the board.
Thank you.
I have a question on this. Okay. And this is just like, how are we totally looking at it? So for your first 5 years, you're at 400, or it's actually your second year through your 5th year, because you don't get anything in the first year, right? Right. That is correct.
Yes, ma'am, that's
Less than
correct.
1 year is no tier at all and no longevity pay. It starts in your second year after you've completed 1 year. So at 5 years, you'd be at $2,000 if you take 5 times 400, right? No, ma'am. Marie, will
No.
you explain that, please? Trustees, I'm just going to say this. Think of it like a stipend only. I try not to use the word stipend. It is a once-a-year payment. It does not accrue. So if you are in year 5, you get $400 one-time payment that year. When you go to tier 2, year 6, you get $500 one-time payment for that year. So it's a payment per year. It does not accrue and continue to add up.
Well-
It's one-time only stipend each year. Marie, would you speak to that?
Yes, ma'am.
I totally misunderstood
Me
that from
too.
our last conversation. I want to apologize. Thanks for the clarification. Marie, would you confirm, please?
That's correct. It's a one-time payment each year, but trustee Benke, if you're asking at year 5, yes, they do have $2,000 added onto that salary because they accrued $400 each year for those 5 years. Does that make sense?
And it's already budgeted in. So
Correct.
in other words, let's say we got a salary of an employee making $30,000. At year 4, we've already budgeted their additional 4 years, which is, $1,600. All we're asking for is the new money to go up for the 500. The 1,600 has rolled forward. We've already spent that and accrued it in the budget last year. Mr. Schubert,
Go ahead and then I will.
Trustees, and I hate to have another person try to describe this. What Marie is referring to is in that tier 1, you received a total of $2,000. You get $400 a year. But if you look across that entire tier, you received $2,000 in tier 1 between years 1 and 5. But it's not $2,000 each year. It is $2,000 total because you read $400 each of those years. And then you'll do the math between the different tiers. But it's just a one annual payment of $400 in first tier. But if you would add all that together, that would be a total of $2,000 in that tier.
So basically you make $400 a year.
That is correct.
In
Each.
addition,
It doesn't accrue.
yes, in addition to
Okay.
your whatever percentage you receive that year that the board approves, then you would receive an additional $400. And that has not changed. That is exactly how we have always had that structured for faculty as it stands now. It has always been the $400 per year. So that this is not a change in terms of how that's distributed.
That makes a big
Does that
difference.
help, trustees?
Yes.
Yeah, that clears up a lot based, I think, on a lot of our understanding from the last meeting. So thank you.
Is that paid, at the end of the year? Is it paid?
No, ma'am.
Marie, would you talk about two things?
Sure.
One, when does the faculty or staff member receive the payment? And 2, if they are TRS, does that count in their 3-year average?
Yes, ma'am. What happens is it's broken down over the 12-month period of the pay. So it's added into your pay September 1st as a $400 divided in, and then it goes across the board for 12 months in your paycheck. It's not given at a one-time stipend or as a one-time bonus. It's actually broken down as part of your pay across the board for that 12-month period. It also does count as your total salary for the year. So it does count for TRS in terms of service and in terms of your salary.
And then finally, when we look at the 2 CCTA comparisons that the trustees see, that is the salary comparison to other community college. Typically, then that amount is included in that salary summary.
Correct. Yes, ma'am. That is correct.
Thank you. I feel much clearer on what was going on.
I have a question.
Dr. Krausen.
Yeah, so my question has to go back to your statement about the situation with the coordinating board. You said that we are sending in revised numbers. Can you elaborate on that? Did they change the parameters? Did we make some type of?
Sure. Leighton, I'm going to have you respond to this one. He's been leading the conversation, but I'd like to thank Dr. McBride and Dr. Burton and numerous student services staff, particularly who have been involved in these conversations.
Thank you, Dr. Krausen. The goal with the coordinating board has been to determine what is that new methodology that they're using and then applying that retroactively to the submissions that we have already submitted. And in working through those numbers with the coordinating board, that methodology obviously changed from when we originally submitted our reports. And so under the new methodology, we're recalculating some of those CBM reports, specifically what we've submitted so far is with the co-enrolled students. That's what we've been submitted, but we're also the next step in that progress, which is still going on. And we're talking to the coordinating board, I think later this week. We've pulled the numbers of transfer students from Blinn who had at least 15 semester credit hours when they transferred. That's the next pot we're looking at. And we're taking that and submitting that to the coordinating board to compare against their number that we say we have, that they say we have in transfers. And we're going to try to figure out, okay, how is the methodology applied? We have this number, you have this number. How do we bridge that gap? And that's the next step in the process. We've already submitted our co-enrollment, updated co-enrollment numbers based on that new methodology. Because remember, they're applying that new methodology retroactively, which was a little bit of a fiction because we were not under those rules when those numbers were submitted. But now that they're retroactively applying their new methodology to the 3-year average, we went back and looked at those 3 years based on the new methodology, and there were some changes based on how they're now calculating it.
I don't want to confuse things, but I think it's important to understand that the formulas, were developed over this past year, and they are being implemented on this new funding program. So sometimes we think we know what it's going to be, but then when we hear the formula, we have to go back and reapply. And that's what's happened, particularly in those 2 big bundles of transfer and enrollment. Just quickly, I think a quick example, I don't want to belabor the point, but remember one of the other items that I had concern about was our property tax number. I mentioned that during the budget workshop. And we know what our property tax income is. And so how could there be a misunderstanding on property tax? I'm going to ask Leighton to explain this formula that they use, because it isn't actually your real property tax. It is a formula that they develop to which you have to put in your numbers, and they calculate and tell you where you are. So I'm going to use this one as an example to show you that just kind of take that same formula application and apply it to what we're experiencing right now with transfer and co-enrollment. Would you mind just briefly explaining what we just went through last week on property tax discussion? And ultimately, I will say that trustees, the coordinating board is correct based on their formula.
So trustees, House Bill 8 had two portions of funding. You have your outcome-based funding, which we were just talking about, co-enrollments, transfers, those sort of things. You also have what's called your base tier funding, and that is how much of your local share is being applied to the operations of the college. The goal of this is to have more of a local share to the operations of the college. Remember, outcomes-based funding is about 96% of our state funding. So base tier is only 4 or 5%, so it's not a huge amount of money. What they have done, the coordinating board has said, we are going to set a model tax rate of 0.05. Of course, that is higher than ours. We have a 0.03 and change. And so they set a model tax rate of 0.05. They look at your actual valuations that we submit to the state and say, okay, how much property tax dollars would you have generated at 0.05, not at your actual tax rate? So that's one step. They then look at a combination of the average of tuition and fees across the state, and they apply that average tuition and fee cost to our student population and say, you should be generating X amount of dollars for tuition. They look at the what you would raise at 0.05 tax rate, what you would raise at the average tuition and fees, and they're trying to get to a set number of a percentage of local share. How base works is you've got your percentage of local share. If you're down here, they're going to make up the gap in base tier funding. So last year, we got a little over $1.3 million of base tier funding. With the new methodology, we're receiving about $500 in base tier funding because once again, they're saying we should be generating at a 0.05 tax rate, not the 0.03 that we currently use. So once again, it's their methodology. It's not actual numbers. It's not real numbers on the ground, but they're saying you should be at 0.05.
So we're getting punished for having a low tax rate.
That is correct.
And in discussions with legislators, we've tried to explain this to them that Blinn, when I first came to Blinn, we were at 0.06, and now we're at 0.03. But the valuations go up, and then the boards have made decisions, to stay within a certain level that's typically below the rollback. So if we tried to go up to a 5%, we would be facing a rollback. And I understand Blinn had that once before in its history, and the rollback passed. So for Blinn to get to a 5-cent tax rate is not going to happen in any near future years, even if we maximized everything we could, unless the board is willing to go beyond the rollback, and then it's likely going to generate an election to push us back below the rollback level. So my point in having Leighton explain this to you, and I thank you for the few minutes of listening to this, is that some of these numbers are not actual numbers. They're using actual numbers to apply to a formula that doesn't always fit what we thought we were going to be dealing with. And the tax rate isn't a perfect example. I thought we were going to be looking at our real tax rate. No, we're looking at a projected if we have a 5%, if that makes clear. All right. So to kind of take that scenario and apply it to co-enrollment and to transfer, there's some formulas now that are being applied, and we have to go back 3 years and resubmit numbers that will now be calculated under the formula that they're looking at, and that will determine how much money we will get. Yes, it is. I'll just say it's complex. We've stayed on it every step of the way, but it was a surprise about these 3 areas a week ago. But to get us back to the trustees' ability to have a discussion today, I'm just going to summarize again that we are in continued conversations with the coordinating board. The budget that you are seeing presented today is a balanced budget. Should we receive any additional monies back from the state based on these conversations, we will apply that to our reserves, and we will not impact this year's budget. I'm very conservative, as you know, financially, and I think that this gets us to a point where everybody feels a little bit more comfortable. The 4% is not a 6%, it's not a 5%, but it's a good percent. And I think faculty and staff will be exceedingly appreciative to the board for your consideration of this. Regarding the longevity pay, this is something that staff have long wanted. I think there has been an imbalance in the fact that it was only given to faculty before. And talking to Marie and to faculty Senate leadership, they very much would like to see an increase in a way that's more than $400 a year. And I think the tier that Trustee Binky suggested is a wonderful way to get there. Could we have gone to 5 tiers, 6 tiers, 7 tiers? Yes, but not in this budget. We're trying to keep it as a balanced budget without going too extreme on anything. But the fact that the board is considering looking at a $500, $600, or $700 payment for people who have been here for so many years, I think will be very much appreciated, and very, very much a sense of gratitude will be expressed by our faculty and I believe our staff. And regarding to the adjunct faculty, it isn't as much as we had hoped. We had wanted to do 75, but we have been able to give faculty, adjunct faculty, an increase every year or 2 or 3. You know, we've gone every couple of years and we've been able to increase them a little bit. And I think 25 is certainly better than nothing. It's not as much as 75, but I think it hits that happy balance for this year's budget. Again, happy to answer any questions as you discuss this further, remembering that we will take away whatever we have today, and that will be the budget that we present for approval by the Board of Trustees at the June board meeting.
Trustee Kettler.
I just want to make sure I understand one more time the longevity. For example, if I if I am employed for 1 year, I do not have longevity that year. If I am employed for 2 years, I receive $400 on a monthly basis for that year. At year 3, I get $400 again. If I am at year 10, then I get whatever it is. It's $500 that year. That amount is not added to base salary, but that amount is reported or goes into the TRS retirement calculation, correct?
That is correct.
Now, if this year we started next fiscal year, if I have been employed by the college for 7 years, I will receive $500 in monthly increments. Is that correct?
That is correct. Okay. You will be placed on the number of years that you actually already have spent at Blinn. So if you've been here 16 plus years, you're coming in at the $700 level, not at the $400 level.
Very good. Thank you. And I just want to make sure at the 4% salary increase level, you feel like on our capital projects, we will not have our hands tied, that we will have ample resources to do those things that we have talked about in the workshop for capital improvements and other things that we need to spend money on. I just want to make sure.
Yes, ma'am,
that
I
we-
do. Thank you very much. I feel very comfortable. Two things, remember, this is the operating budget and your capital improvements are in our master plan and R&R. And so those will not be affected by this. We're talking about the operating budget right now when we're talking about the salary increase, the longevity pay, and the increase for adjunct faculty. Thank you. Great questions.
Okay, I want to make sure I'm totally clear, but the staff are all starting out with one spot and faculty are already on the other spot, or is everybody going the same?
Right. So thank you again. I'll try to clarify this one more time. Marie, please
ma'am.
correct me if I don't have this right. So if I'm just going to make this up now. Currently, if I am a faculty member and I have 5 years of experience, I get a $400 amount that year. If I am a faculty member and I have 16 years of experience, I get $400. If I am a staff member and I have 5 years of experience at Blinn, I get nothing because the longevity pay does not apply to staff. If I am a staff member and I have 16 years, I get nothing because the current longevity pay does not apply to staff. Now, here's the change. Using the same two examples, if I am a staff member or a faculty member, either one, and I have been here for 5 years, I will get $400. If I am a faculty member or a staff member and I have been here for 16 years, I will get $700 all the way across. Thank you so very much. I really appreciate your thoughtful attention to longevity pay.
Trustee Wells.
My final observation, again, I want to thank our Blinn staff, faculty, executive leadership, administration, and particularly our chancellor and fellow trustees. Since 2018, every year we've rewarded our team with salary increases. Everybody know what we experienced through COVID and that period. And even during that period, Trustee Mosier championed that every staff member will be compensated. So again, we want to be fiscally responsible. The worst case scenario, we don't want to put something out there and have to come back and say we can't do that. But I want to just on the record say that we value everything that everybody does, and we want to be able to show you all that in a very responsible way. So thank you.
Any other questions?
Just to add some comments, Dr. Hensley, Mr. Schubert, Ms. Kirby, and of course, Ms. Beckendorf really rolled up their sleeves when we got this news. They have a wealth of knowledge. They have a lot of institutional understanding, and they were able to put this together really quickly, real efficiently. My only contribution was to lay on the floor and hyperventilate. So I do thank their knowledge and experience.
I told Dr. Burton we broke him well on this first year, didn't we?
That's quite a picture right there. Okay, I echo Trustee Wells' comments. I know how seriously administration took the news and wanted very badly to make sure that staff and faculty were able to be taken care of to the greatest extent possible. Thank you for the time that you took to scrub the budget to the extent that we could consider doing what you're recommending. So we will move on now to the consent item portion of the agenda. All items listed in this portion of the agenda are considered to be routine by the Board of Trustees and will be enacted upon one motion. There will be no separate discussion of these items unless the trustees so request, in which event the item will be removed from consent and considered in discussion and possible action. Trustees receive agenda materials in advance of the meeting to prepare for the business to be conducted. First item is approval of minutes for April 2nd, 2024 regular meeting. Second item, approval of minutes for the May 14th, 2024 board workshop. Third item, approval of proposed amendments to AD local. Fourth, approval of proposed amendments to CIA local. E, approval of proposed amendments to DGC local. F, approval of proposed amendments to GHA local. G, approval of proposed amendments to DHB local. And finally, H, approval of proposed amendments to DHC local. I would entertain a motion to approve.
So move.
Trustee Wells, Trustee Benke makes the second. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, motion carries. Thank you so much. Moving on to discussion and possible action items. The first item on that is the request authorization to negotiate and execute a contract for the purchase of furniture for the administration building on the Blinn Bryan campus. Dr. Burton.
I'd like to introduce.
I see you're gonna hand that off to Mr. Helpelhaig.
Very good. Good morning again, trustees. My pleasure to present to you agenda item 6A. This is a request that the board authorize administration to negotiate and execute a contract with J. Tyler Services for the purchase of furniture for the administration building on the Blinn Bryan campus. At the November board meeting, November 14th, 2023, the board authorized administration to seek proposals for furniture, fixtures, and equipment for the Bryan administration building. Using board policy CF legal, we solicited those proposals. And using that process, the district received one proposal for package number 1 from Miller Knoll Furniture. That is mainly office furniture, and that is territorial specific. Sometimes you have these vendors who have different territories. And then we also had a package number 2, which was the open market furniture. That's more your lobby furniture, some of your conference spaces. Based on these proposals, the administration recommends that the board authorize administration to negotiate and execute a contract with J. Tyler Services for package number 1 and package number 2, totaling $770,450. The overall project budget, again, for the Bryan administration building is $30.95 million. Of that, we have allocated $3.77 million for soft costs, which includes what we pay to the architects, as well as these FF&E and some other soft cost fees. The cost for this furniture is under what we have budgeted for those soft costs for the FF&E, and those funds are available from the unrestricted cash. And with that, I will stand for any questions.
Anyone have any questions? If not, I would entertain a motion that the board authorize the administration to negotiate and execute a contract with J. Tyler Services, Inc. for the purchase of furniture for the administration building on the Blinn Bryan campus.
So moved.
Trustee Mosier, Trustee Krausen, all in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, motion carries. Thank you, sir. And now we will move on to the request for authorization to negotiate and execute a contract for audio-visual equipment for the administration building on the Blinn Bryan campus.
Very good. Thank you. So again, this is a request that the board authorize administration to execute a contract with Avanext for the purchase of audio-visual equipment for the administration building on the Bryan campus. Again, based on that approval from the board at the November board meeting, using that board policy CF legal, we solicited proposals for the AV system at the Bryan admin building. Based on the proposals we received, the administration recommends that the board authorize administration to negotiate and execute a contract with Avanext for $492,500 for the audio-visual equipment at the administration building on Bryan. We received multiple proposals. Those were reviewed by the academic technology and facilities teams. And that $492,500 fits similarly into the FF&E budget that we have allocated for the Bryan admin building. And those funds, again, come from unrestricted cash. So with that, I'll stand for any questions.
Trustee Kettler.
I've just got a question. Avanext is recommended. They have a score of 91. I know that they are a local in Bryan College Station. Does the 91 score include maybe a service contract or anything that goes with that? Are
No,
they able to?
we base, those scores are based on qualifications. So we put together a qualifications package that outlines their company history, the qualifications of their team, their ability to complete the project on time. So within that request for proposals, there are qualifications, and it helps us to not only look at the bottom dollar price, but can their team, do they meet the qualifications or the most qualified team for that project?
Will they service the product as well, Mark? Do they? Okay.
Yes, ma'am. They're a great team. We've worked with them before. Actually, the AV that's in this room is a project that they completed for us. They've done very good work for us in the past.
Very good. Thank you.
Thank you.
So moved.
All right, we've got a motion that the board authorizes the administration to negotiate and execute a contract with Avanex for the purchase of audiovisual equipment for the administration building on the Blinn Bryan campus from trustee Moser. Looking for a second. Trustee Aylert makes the second. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, motion carries. Thank you, Mark. Appreciate it. Okay, now we come to the executive portion, executive session portion of our meeting, and it looks like we're going to meet in accordance with 551.071, 551.072, and 551.074. It is 11:40 a.m. and I think we're going to retire to the room next door. And we will have an action item coming out of executive session. So we will now go into executive session. Yeah, and you guys can get a break. We'll start in 10 minutes. How about that?
That's what I'm.